So I put together 6 keys to consistently publishing a daily newsletter. And so I think whether you're going to use my format or not, here's what I would recommend to people. So number one, keep it short. Doesn't have to be as short as mine, but keep it short. Daily newsletter is a big commitment for readers and writers. The longer the format, the less likely either one is to stick with it. Mine's a single paragraph. It's often a single sentence. There's no way I would be doing it if it was significantly longer. If my daily newsletter was like my Sunday newsletter, no way. Too much work for me. And I also don't think people would stick with it because it would be too much for them. The second key to consistently publishing a daily newsletter is to eliminate all the fluff. Cut anything that's not absolutely necessary. And that has also been a really interesting exercise when you limit yourself to a paragraph, right? You realize very quickly, I don't need a 3 sentence summary of an article I'm linking to when a single sentence will do. I don't need an intro when I only have a paragraph to work with.
The intro, every week I do a little 2 sentence intro,
Mhm.
and I've always felt like I've had to include it, and I hate it. It's the hardest part for me to come
Yep.
up with, that little intro. And I did a survey. I said, "Do you guys like this? Do you guys need an intro? Do you care?" And surprisingly, people were like, "I like the intro." I'm like, "We don't need it."
They say that, but they probably wouldn't miss it if I don't think anyone would be like, "Hey, where's the intro?" And you don't in most cases, and this is true of all newsletters, you don't need most of what you're writing, no matter who you are, even if you're a good writer. And again, I remind myself of this all the time. The third key to consistently publishing daily newsletter, write it like a social post that appears on a platform with no algorithm. So if you think about the tweets or the LinkedIn posts or whatever that you'd like to publish that would have links, but you don't publish them because the algorithm isn't going to show them to anyone anyway, send those as a newsletter. There's no algorithm to punish links in an email. So if you read my newsletter, a lot of times you can look at it and you go, you know what? I basically just wrote a tweet and sent it as an email with a link. And then along those lines, the fourth key here is repurpose your social post. So that awesome tweet you publish or LinkedIn post or whatever, just link to it in your newsletter and drive your audience to. You don't need to settle for these social platforms only showing your post to 10% of your audience anymore. A mistake I see people make all the time is they'll embed the social post, especially with tweets. You don't want to do that. You want it to be a link because you want to drive them into the platform where they're more likely to comment and share and whatever. You don't want them to read it in their inbox and then not do anything with it, right?
Do you ever worry
It's a,
about the people? Because I do a lot of Twitter links in my email.
Mhm.
I worry about the people that don't use Twitter or X.
I don't particularly, although one thing I used to link to threads and what I've discovered. So if you're not a Twitter user, you'll still be able to see the tweet. But what I realized is you can't see the full thread. So I have stopped linking to threads, my own or others people's, because I got people replying who were saying, oh, but I can't read it, but they can read an individual tweet. So yeah, so I do think about it, but it's not, that's the only time it was ever an issue because they actually couldn't access it. By the way, the same thing with Medium posts behind a paywall, I won't link to anymore because I get people who go, but I can't read. The fifth idea here, or fifth key to consistently publishing a daily newsletter, share your old content and even valuable stuff that you didn't create. Most of your email list has not seen it or they don't remember they saw it. The dirty secret of my daily newsletter is about 50% of the stuff I feature in it, I originally shared years ago. No one has ever mentioned to me that they saw it before. And I have people that have subscribed for years, right? But a lot of times I share stuff. I'm like, I don't even remember when I shared this. So they're certainly not going to remember it. You don't have to constantly reinvent the wheel. And I think this is one of the reasons why people think a daily newsletter feels so overwhelming. But when you start to think about it through this lens of, oh, I can share all the stuff I've shared before or created before, I can link to all the stuff I'm currently posting on social channels. If you only need 1 or 2 things a day to send, it's not that hard actually. Like you have this, unless you're really starting from scratch, but most people aren't starting from scratch. And then the sixth and last key here is keep the design as minimal as possible. It's one thing when you're doing a weekly newsletter or biweekly newsletter or whatever, but when you're doing a daily newsletter, every little issue specific design element you add basically 5X's the workload. So if you think you need a custom image to go with your one link, you need to pick a photo to go with it. Now you're doing that 5 times a week. it makes it much more complicated. And in most cases, it's not worth the effort. Your newsletter, my newsletter just has my logo at the top and then that's it. There's no image to go along with it. Having an image is not going to really make a big difference one way or another. And you're just forcing yourself to 5 times a week come up with an image. So when you consider those things again, it becomes much easier to publish daily consistently, right? Keep it short, eliminate all the fluff, write it like a social post, repurpose your existing social post, share your old content or other content from other people you've shared before. Keep the design as minimal as possible, and it won't be as hard as it seems. Won't be easy, but won't be as hard as